What's happening, everybody? We are about to go live. About to go live in just a moment. Just had a technical difficulty, but that is being fixed right now. Yay! All right, fixed that. We're about to go live in just a moment. Hello, hello, hello. Happy New Year. This is another ASC Quickie, number 65 to be specific, and we're going to go live in just a second. Let us know where you are watching from, and we are going to go live in 3, 2, 1. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. All right. We are going to be kicking off the new year and talking about how not to get burnt out, or at least avoid it as best as possible. Because if you're anything like Apryl and myself, you're one of those type A personalities, and sometimes you're go, go, go. I get it. But yes, what's happening, Steve? We got my buddy Steve. Happy New Year, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah. Awesome. Yes. And Apryl, how are you doing? Happy New Year.
I'm doing great. I'm feeling good. I'm nice and cozy. It's so cold here. And are you in a t-shirt? I don't know.
I am in a t-shirt. Look at my.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm wearing my coat in my house, my hat, more because my hair is a mess, but it's okay. But yeah, it's good. It feels good to start a brand new year. I'm trying to not jump the gun. It was really interesting because I ran 9 miles on New Year's Day, and I was in this groove where I was like, oh, I'm going to post on social media every day. I'm going to do this on do this every day. I'm going to do a little, and I had 5 or 6 things that I wanted to do a little bit every day. And I know that that's a recipe for disaster. But there's so much excitement, right, at the beginning of the year, which is why we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about today. So, I need this advice just as much as anybody else. So, so we'll talk about 3 ways to avoid New Year's burnout. How was your holiday? I know that you were in New York and got to see Freestyle Love Supreme.
Oh, yes. Freestyle Love Supreme. Amazing. Yeah, it was great. We could talk about that another day. I don't want to take up our quickie time talking about an amazing.
It has to be short.
Yes.
And fast.
Yeah, so just the tips. We're getting straight to the tips. But yeah, Freestyle Love Supreme was amazing. I was in New York for a bit right before the new year, making some big plans, and I'll just keep it at that. But yeah, let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. Apryl, you have the very first one. You have an amazing tip on how to help people avoid that potential burnout that tends to happen around the middle of February. So let's jump into it.
So tip number 1, if you are, this is kind of obvious, but planning ahead. And I know that, sometimes, we're in the now and it's like, oh, the new year's here, let's do it. But I think that it's always important to think about planning ahead. So if you wanted to capitalize on the New Year's excitement, it's always better to be planning prior to the start of the year. So those of you who went to the annual planning retreat with the ASC, you guys are already in your grooves and just executing. But I think one of the things that you need to think about is, if without that vision and without that planning ahead, it's not as easy to say, well, you could do things in the moment, but are they intentional? And so you want to think about, looking at your calendar for the next 3 months before you even start, get started. That was one of the first things that I did after coming back from vacation. The end of last year, was looking at my entire month of January. At the very least, you can look at the whole first quarter, but think about, like, what are the big milestones and deliverables. So if you're going to look at it just from a month view, I know for me, I have a half marathon at the end of the month. I'm going to Breckenridge next weekend, and I had one other big thing that I wanted to work on. And so those are the big milestones and deliverables. You can look at that, at a quarterly glance, if that's better, so that you can start thinking about, and getting yourself ahead of the game, instead of just saying, like, oh my gosh, I have this thing due. Taxes, that was my third one. I have to start looking at my taxes, which I am trying not to complain and get afraid about, because that's going to be something that's going to be rough for me to do this year. You want to try to take any big projects that you have and spread them across weeks. So, like, I don't want to be running a half marathon and thinking about that while I'm completing another big deliverable, right? You want to space things out, commit the time in your calendar so that you can see where the space lies. And then you also need to plan for rest. I mean, I think a lot of people think, you just take rest when you're ready to rest. But when you're intentional about rest, this is a great way for you to not burn out. So I know that after my half marathon, I get to take a week off from running completely. That's exciting. That's rest on the fitness side, but I'm also thinking about, where am I going to have pockets of relaxation? I started trying to think about trying to get myself to bed at a reasonable hour. So I'm, thinking about winding down anywhere between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock, by either watching a TV show or, hanging out and having a conversation with a friend, whatever that is in the evening, so that I am not all riled up before I go to bed. So you want to make sure that you plan for rest, either in bigger periods or, just a little bit every day, because you can't keep on going at this like crazy pace, or you will lead yourself to burnout. So that will take us to number 2, which Gary is going to take care of.
Yes. And the rest thing is legit. And not all rests are created equal. If you think about it like this, imagine that you have a big pitcher and you start filling that pitcher with water. Those are all of your priorities. Those are all of your stressors. And those are all the things that you're trying to do. And they're going to come regardless. There's no way to stop that. Here's the thing. If you don't have rest, it's going to overflow. You're going to stress yourself out and you will burn out. Adding these types of rest, and I'm going to talk about them in just a moment, gives you, like, imagine poking little holes in that container, and the water just is spewing out. So it will never overflow. Here's the thing. As busy professionals, we often, say, oh, I can do it. I can persevere. Let's just be honest with ourselves. We're not as good as that as we think we are. There's a lot of stats and studies that show that we think that we can go longer and harder and faster than we actually can. And that results in poor work performance. It results in, burnout and all the things. So 3 M's of rest. First one is micro rest. What are the little things that you can put into your schedule to give you a little break in between things? So in the AFC, when we have our integrity days and our little co-working sessions, in between the work sessions, we take small breaks to get our minds off of the work. Sometimes we shake it out, sometimes we dance, and things like that. What can you do? And it doesn't mean check your email or jump on social. How can you step away from what you're doing and allow your brain to sort of decompress, allow yourself to revitalize? That's important. So that's the first M. micro. Then we have macro. This goes back to what Apryl was saying earlier of actually getting rest at night. Now, I'm not one to say that you need 8 hours. You know what you need. Here's the thing. For those amount of hours of rest that you're getting, are they quality?
Mm.
Because think about it. When we are sleeping at night, we are our brain is recharging. Our brain is processing thoughts. Our brain is healing. Our brain does a lot of amazing stuff when we sleep at night. However, if you don't have quality sleep because maybe you ate too close to bedtime, or you are busy, sort of scrolling social media, you're doing all these things that are going to interfere with your sleep patterns, you're not going to reap all the benefits. So that is important, to set up an environment where you can get the best amount of sleep.
Yes.
And so, what can you do to do that? Do you implement something like what Apryl said, is have a specific wind down time where you start to say, all right, cool. I'm going to stay off my phone. I'm going to, watch a few shows. I'm going to maybe read, fiction book or whatever the case may be. That is important. And then the last M, Mezzo. Now, this is a big challenge for a lot of people, but it's so important. Meso breaks are an extended amount of time away from the work during the workday. The easiest thing is maybe like on Fridays or a specified day, you take a 2-hour break in the middle of the day to go do something that is going to fill you up spiritually. And again, I get it. You're all busy. And that might be challenging. To be honest, the ideal Meso break would be a whole day off per month, where you do something that is going to fill you up. Because when you do that, and especially if you follow what we said before, plan ahead, that time off is going to allow you to jump back into the work and be even more invigorated. Maybe even be even more inspired. There's a lot of studies that show that people that have things that they do outside of their work end up being more productive, end up being more innovative, because the brain is not linear. Mm-hmm. The brain is always trying to make these connections. So that is the 3 M's of rest. It is something that takes intention. However, when applied, you will reduce your chances of burning yourself out. So, yes. And yes, Steve is correct. Rest can happen at any time, any place. Get that rest. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Love it.
And yay, I love that you have a rest routine for Alexa. Man, I just have to look around. I'm like, am I going to trigger something by saying that A word? Yeah. So rest reminders are important. What do you think, Apryl, before we go to the last one?
I think that's great. I'm trying to think about, like, there's the Mezzo rest. I'm trying to think, what's my full day rest this month? We'll have to see. I'll have to take a look at that. But I do tend to, because I'm running so much lately, I do tend to try to take Sunday completely off. Yeah, they're doing some laundry and all that stuff, but so to not have a plan to not have a plan. It's still planning ahead. Should we go on to number 3?
Number 3.
This is super, super important, and it ties into everything that we've already been talking about, but it's all about flexibility. There is, and I don't know if we embrace this more, Gary and I, as people who have, who do improv or have done improv, because now I feel like I'm so far removed from the improv world lately. But there's this ability to kind of go with the flow, even though you're planning ahead. So some of the things that you want to watch out for, or sometimes you can get caught up in the momentum in the moment, and that's fine. You can have that excitement, but watch out for any time that you're overcommitting. Like I'll notice that I'm, trying to clean up something and I get in a groove and I want to keep going, but then it's 9 o'clock and I'm still on my computer and I need to cut myself off and I need to stay flexible. And I think that it also train you to be able to jump back into things, especially when you're taking rest breaks and whatnot, trying to keep yourself in this moving state so that the momentum or the kickstart to every task that you're doing doesn't take so much effort. You want to try to, as much as possible, stick to solid routines. It's all about habit. The theme in the ASC this month is about stability. So we're talking a lot about habits and routines and not jumping the gun too fast, right? It's like the whole tortoise and the hare. Like you want to be maybe a little faster than the tortoise, but you want to be moving at that awesome, that nice even pace. And also just setting goals that aren't too rigid. I mean, I think a lot of times people are like, okay, I need to make X amount of dollars in the next 90 days, which can be done. But if there's also if you're going to be working at a high capacity, you need to balance yourself out with rest later. And so allowing yourself to be flexible so that you're not pushing yourself over the limit and then not being able to kind of like recover from that. I mean, and that's why I think, we're all excited because it's the new year, but you have to almost hold back a little bit and like spread the energy, across a longer period of time, because you don't want to be that, 60 to 70% of people who at 2 weeks from now, you're like, okay, we're back in, I'm tired and I'll just wait till next year again. You don't want to be one of those people. You want to try to keep this train going as long as you can. Gary, you have anything else to add?
Was just laughing at Stephen that he said, Alexa, cut me off. But yeah, you know what? Sometimes you need to have some stuff like that where you can, sort of this part of the plan ahead of realizing, all right, these are some things that I have a tendency of doing. And how can I put some interventions in place to ensure that I'm doing the best I can? But the flexibility is crucial because, it goes back to some stoic thinking of suffering. And again, when you are an overachiever, where you're, someone who, have the best intentions and you mean well, but you want things to go a certain way and you get too laser focused, you get too too blindsided, there is a chance you can suffer more than you have to, because when life comes at you, and we use this term all the time in the AFC, our other success leader, Rebecca, talks about this. When life gets lifey, when things start to show up that are unexpected, you have a choice. You can, bob and weave and go with the flow and adjust as necessary, or you can be very rigid and as a result have unnecessary suffering, which can lead to burnout. So
yeah,
for sure. Yes.
So we gotta keep an eye out on that. So that is our quickie to kick off the new year. We'll be bringing some extra stuff to you over the next month to just make sure that you set a really good foundation for the year and keep this momentum going. But if you, think you're going to need a little bit more help with that, hop into the ASC as soon as possible. Check us out, accountabilitysuccesscircle.com. We're an awesome community of awesome people who are excited and motivated and just want to support you in your goals while you're also working on your goals. So just check us out and see if it's something that you want to join us. And we're having a lot of fun kicking off the new year. We've got some really good momentum going, and a lot of people are all talking about stability and habits without even any of us really sharing much. It's really about that steady stream of getting started. So come get that for you, and we will see you in another quickie soon.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, let us know down below which one of those are you going to be working on, and we will catch you on the flip side.